Welcome to today's episode of Mr. Vamos Dissects. It's been a month since we were actually on set and all that, but it's been a very, very crazy month. You know, the road to Fort Portal really got heated, and this past few days or weeks, some crazy bits of times has been a period of maybe looking for resources to get onto that final trip to Fort Portal. Well, today's episode will be very easy. Today we're going to tell you about the entire league final. That is Kalele taking on TY Omujuma. Yeah, we're going to give you maybe where does the rivalry start from. These are two sides that follow each other in line to maybe academics and everything. These are two sides that have had a rivalry from back in the day. Probably going to tell you what we think about the final. We're going to tell you about what has been cooking on the sides before the final and all that. Yeah. For those of you that are new on the channel, don't forget to like, don't forget to share, don't forget to subscribe. Yeah. And before we even get started, yeah, I think today's episode we decided to rock the famous Century jersey, yeah, the Nouvelle Chapital. Yeah. I don't know where this brother man thought about something in French, yeah, but it resonates to maybe what they're planning to cook in the future. Just in case you're looking for some apparel, maybe you can just come to It's a Black, has some good nice gold printing and all that, yeah. And then of course their sponsor is a liquor guy, is a liquor store, yeah. For you guys who are planning to get some liquor onto your buses, on your buses, this might be your plug, yeah. Well, the final is finally here. Yeah, it's been very many months of speculation. We had sequences and series of game weeks where guys were using calculators and all that, but of course we didn't need very many game weeks to close this out, because the calculator syndrome only worked for like a game week, and then everyone found themselves in the right order. Yeah, we've had very many spaces about who's going to compete in the final and all that, but I think it's very befitting for a final to have maybe a TY and a Kalele. Yeah, if we're looking into the statistics for these two teams coming to the final, these guys actually have very, very sick numbers. Yeah, when you start from Kalele, they had a rock solid defense. Yeah, their defense only conceded about 4 or 5 goals in a whole season. That's if it means if a team is going to be conceding maybe 1 goal every 4 games, then that's really, really, that's not a normal thing to see. Yeah, of course, when you also check the MVP listing and know that, of course, they have a defender inside that one that is rooting for MVP, because he's been the main man in ensuring that the goals don't go past their goalkeeper. Know that he's been steady in that defense inside that one. We'll be talking about that one. That's the main man, Dawson, for you. And then for TY has actually scored the most goals in the league. Yeah, for the whole season. Of course, majority of the season they did it on top of the log, which was another thing that didn't leave very many people, of course, very many people happy and all that. But it looked like something for these guys to come through and maybe manage to remain on top of the log for a long period of time. It means that there's actually a lot of craftsmanship and work inside there. So this is going to be a final of the team with the most goals scored versus the team with the least goals conceded. Yeah. Now that will be very interesting, because you know when you're getting into a final, man, I think final is a ground where you put aside all these statistics and all these things that you guys have been cooking, and you get to fight for the ultimate prize. The final doesn't even care about who is going to score very many goals or something. It all comes down to maybe a moment of magic. And just to maybe remind very many of you, these two sides have not, this is going to be the second time these two sides meet in a final. Yeah, very many of you remember the first time we actually left Imbara to go for a final in another city. We went to the Stone City in Jinja, and see, it was Kalele taking on TY Omujuma. Yeah, interesting to know that the game before the season, the last game week of that season, had a TY playing a Kalele, and then TY actually went on to win that game 2-0. Yeah, in a game that actually showed that okay, TY was actually going to be in position to maybe win it at the grandest of stages. But well, long story short, Kalele came through to the final and actually won the final 1-0 win inside that one. Yeah. So they traveled all the way with all the banter and all that, and they actually managed to deliver it where it mattered the most. Yeah. Because when you check their jersey right now, their jersey actually has that 1 star, which is a star that very many teams in the entire league are looking for. Yeah. And then TY will be looking to maybe have that star engraved on their new jersey. Yeah. Because now when I start from the final in Ginger, you know, the good thing about the entire league is that it gives you a chance to showcase creativity, style, flair, and everything, you name it. So before the final in Ginger, Kalele goes on to like unleash a new jersey, yeah? Very beautiful jersey. It didn't really have the concept of the bridge before, but they unleashed a new jersey, yeah? Unleashed a new jersey. They, of course, get some apparel for their fans to put on and all that. And then TY as well unleashes a new jersey for the final. Yeah. So now it's fire for fire. New jersey, new jersey. That's just how they like to play. They want to play it off social media and then play it back on the pitch. Yeah. New jersey and everything. Yeah. So these are two new jerseys that are going to be fielded on the grandest of stages in Ginger. Yeah. So everyone is looking, oh, maybe will these guys replicate the football with their new jersey and all that? But at the end of the day, Kalele were crowned champions. And yeah, that stuff has, and now that stuff has been like pushing them for all the seasons. Yeah, very many people might equate Kalele to maybe an Inshera for mentality, because ever since that season inside there, it's become a team that's very formidable to play against. Yeah, you don't just come through and pick points. It's not even a wonder that they're the team that actually broke the unbeaten run that Inshera had for maybe nearly 2 seasons in a game that very many of us will not forget. And now, if you remember the goals that were scored on that day, it first rained a bit, and then after the rain, all of a sudden we saw Morabio in the net. Yeah, bad man. There's a bad man that actually took a goal for Kalele inside that one. Barnett, I remember Barnett from school was like the best player on that entire school team. He was playing that number 3 line as if he owned that line, as if a prime Roberto Carlos inside that one. Yeah, so those are some of the games that actually, we had very many games that actually showed that these are people that want to compete. Kalele goes on, destroys FC Inshera. Kalele goes on, plays a Machando, where Machando that somehow almost sneaked into this whole competition and wanted to get into the final. Well, Kalele had, well, they've shown during the season that they can actually produce masterclass performances. Yeah, we had, inside that one, we had Romfield and Emma actually combining to score very beautiful goals inside that one, with Emma leaving Badman better down on the ground and all that. Of course, there was a lot of like twerkology and things like that. But the whole point I'm trying to make is that these are two sides in a final that we would want to see in a final. Yeah. When we get into who are the talisman for these teams coming into the final, like I already said, the defense of Kalele is rock solid. And then, of course, the attacking of Omujuma matches the defense. Yeah. Rock solid defense, blistering attack. Yeah. So in regards to the numbers, Kalele doesn't go unnoticed in numbers in regards to scoring. Yeah, at the end of the season, they went, of course, after getting 30 million shillings, and know that there's a lot of money that they injected, and they went on to buy a one Romfield who was playing for Jabulani. I don't want to get back into the conversation of why maybe Emma went on to scout him, because he probably left Emma twerking a season before. But the only thing that speaks for this boy, speaks for Big Rom himself, is maybe like his ability to score goals, the hunger and desire that he has to score goals. So long story short, Romfield, actually top scorer of the previous season, went on to actually start topping the charts from game week 1. Yeah. So at the end of the season, Romfield closes his league campaign again with a double figure, and ends the season with 18 goals, which is pretty remarkable for someone that has actually played the league for 2 seasons. It speaks a lot of maybe this is a kid that actually knows his craft. This is someone who actually has an eye for goal and knows what the goal is. And then TY on the other side gets to connect Romfield to maybe a Kagwisaje Philo, as very many people usually call him. So Philo actually snatched the boots on the last game day of the season, racking up a total of 19 goals and a remarkable about 15 assists inside that one. Yeah, don't get it twisted. Romfield also had about 10 assists also. So it means that these guys were going head to head during the season. So I'm not even shocked that these are two teams that have produced people that are actually going to play the final. Yeah. So it's going to be, all of our eyes are going to be focused on who of these two guys has the upper hand in regards to actually looking for the goal inside that one. Yeah. Just to give you a brief about how these sides have met each other over the years. I think these sides have met each other 7 times in the entire league. Yeah. Of course, the very first time that these guys met, there were still 2 young sides at Nambole that season in there. Kalele was actually putting on a PSG jersey, and then TY Omujuma was putting on, I think it was a maroon jersey, Juma Van Kocha. Yeah. The very first time they played in that one, Nambole didn't actually give them the services of the main pitch, and they actually played in the pitch that is actually behind Nambole, a game that ended 2-0, a game that had like a lot of buzz and everything. But TY Omujuma went on to win that one. Yeah. But in the total of the 7 games that they played, TY has actually won 4 games in there, and Kalele has won 3 games. Interesting to know that Kalele, the 3 wins that they have the big win that still stands on 25th March 2022, I think, if I'm not mistaken, in that one. 2023, yeah, 2023. So Well, that actually shows that these sides can go head to head and give you finals week in, week out. And now before, during the season, Kalele Omujuma actually ended in a 1-0 in a game that very many people believe that Omujuma actually dominated. But just like I said, the X factor that Kalele has of maybe playing under the pressure and finally getting to score the goal that will actually seal the 3 points for you is what actually mattered inside that one. Well, just to give you what I think about the final, let me get away from all the information that's covering the final and all that. Well, I think this is going to be an evenly matched final. And now, this is going to be a final where maybe TY Omujuma wants to. This is actually their third straight final in a row, yeah? That time they're going to a final. And this is a final that I believe they want to win, yeah? They've actually gone there 3 times. And they actually risk breaking Ebitunchu's record of they actually risk breaking the record of losing 2 finals. I think Ebitunchu had that. Ebitunchu had that, Inshera had that, and went on to win. Of course, Ebitunchu disbanded after that. So there's a lot of history at stake for them. If they don't win this one, then they're probably going to get into the record books for maybe being one of the disastrous teams in the league, maybe failing to deliver at the grandest of stages. Yeah, but well, I'm thinking when you look at these two sides playing, yeah, these two sides, like I said, Kalele revolves on a big Romfield and Mukama Emmanuel, who of course, when you get into the season, he actually contributed a lot to what they were playing because he actually racked up a total of 6 goals and 8 assists. Yeah, those are 14 goal contributions, which is not bad for a star boy that actually left very many people asking for water in all the areas that we played for. Yeah, so I think the game is actually one from maybe Emma and Romfield. And then for TY, the game is actually one from maybe a Philo and maybe, of course, it's actually one from a maybe a Philo and maybe how does the TY midfield line up against these guys? Because one thing I've noticed about watching games between Kalele and TY, it's always the midfield. If you have to remember the final that was played in Ginger, the Kalele team actually did their homework very well and actually decided to suppress everything that was going to pass in the middle for TY. Yeah. So the midfield battles will be very key in this one. Yeah. About the defense, I keep telling very many people on here that if you'd probably get a defense of maybe Dawson and you probably put on him maybe a Kagezi who is in TY right now, and they're actually playing two in a centre back in a team, and they're actually playing as 2 centre backs in a team, I don't really know where you will pass. Yeah, but take nothing away from Dawson. I think he's probably the most solid centre back that we have in this league, and he's actually very quiet. You're not going to find him maybe in a conversation about maybe who has better ball than the other person and all that. So I think it will all come down to how these defenses line up, because now, of course, if you're to check the MVP charts for the season have Bromfield, Dawson, and Fido, right? The reason why they have 3 players from the final is because these guys stood out the whole season, yeah? So for TY, the agenda will be simple. If TY manages to take out Bromfield and Emma, because I believe these are 2 people that are going to cause a problem at any time in the game, then that will be a done. And then if Kalele actually come through and maybe take out a Fido, and then also maybe find a way to get into that midfield of maybe Sam inside there, because I think it's probably the catalyst for the TY, then we will have a final in our hands. But I'll start by giving you what I think will be in this final. First and foremost, TY has actually not scored in a final in 3. This is in 2 finals, yeah? Will this be the final where they break the duck and actually score? Just to take you guys a bit back, when the season was starting, the graphics that the league made showed, will TY actually come again and compete? Yeah. So TY has actually answered that question and said, yeah, we've come through and competed, and we're now in the final. Yeah. Nothing was asking, will Romfield actually roar again the way he roared the season before? Long story short, the man has actually scored 18 goals. Second season, 18 goals. So now I think the ultimate question will be, will Romfield inspire Kalele to maybe their second title, give them a second star? Yeah. Or will TY, with all the people that they have in that team, will they actually try to pay homage, pay tribute to one of their fallen soldiers and actually bring that final home? Because I'm pretty sure that if Alan the late was around and he would be watching a TY in the final, it would be like his greatest and strongest desire to see that TY actually brings the final inside that one. So the only thing I can assure you guys is I think this is going to be the best final that we will want and ask for. Yeah. But I don't expect this final to even go to extra time. These guys have too much beef inside them for them to be waiting for a final to go into extra time and all that. I don't think they're going to give us time to think about all that drama and all that. And before I even forget, I saw the other day that as for TY and Kalele, It's really deep because the time there was a strike in about 2013, it's alleged that the guys from TY and maybe the Apaya, which is Abashwechi, refused to help the guys in Kalele to catalyze a strike that they were actually looking for. So it looks like another thing that is pushing one of the factions in Kalele to actually come out here and look for the blood. Yeah, but what do I know? I don't really know what everyone is thinking. But the only thing I can assure you guys is that let's be there for this final. Let's find yourself booking for a bus that's going, because I guarantee you that that Fort Portal Road will be crazy. About 20 buses will be going on in that one. Yep. And then don't forget to buy any apparel from the entire league, because the entire league actually releases one of the apparel that they're going to be using as the main one for Fort Portal. A very very beautiful kit. There's a white one, and then there's a blue black one. Very beautiful kit with the design of the whole Fort Portal city. Find yourself getting that one, and then of course TY and Kalele didn't stop at waiting at keeping fans anxious. Yeah, every one of them went on to produce an apparel that they were going to use for the finale. Yeah, you check out the Secundo apparel for Kalele, a blue one, nice one inside there. Look, giving baseball vibes inside that one. And then TY released I think it's the Amo TY. Yeah, also looking like a baseball make and all that. And then there's like, I don't know how to describe that, but then there's also a brown something that you guys can get in. So just don't forget to get any apparel inside that one. Yeah. I think the only thing I can say, it's been a very remarkable season from the start of the season to the end. I just hope these guys give us a final that we want to see. I want all of us to be there. I think the Bagana normally say Amaso Kulutimbe Kabina Kundongo. I think that's the vibe that we should be on. And then let's just, I don't know what you guys think about who is going to win the final, but I'm not going to give you guys a direct result, or maybe someone that I think, but I'm pretty sure this game will not go to penalties. I think that's all I can give you guys about the road to Fort Portal. But just make sure you spare some time and let's go to Fort Portal. Let's make Fort Portal ask for water. Well, it's been nice being on set. Yeah, we expect the episode to come in frequently from now on. And yeah, don't forget to like, don't forget to share, don't forget to subscribe. Vamos, we go again.